of bands. What has happened that is utterly extraordinary in the charts is the complete disappearance of bands. The complete disappearance of bands. And so soloists and duos and, collaborations of soloists, Dave and Central C, all this sort of thing, are so dominant. I'll tell you how dominant they are. We've had half a decade, roughly so far, the first half of the 2020s. So I looked at the first half of the 1980s. And in the first half of the 1980s, there were 146 weeks when bands were number one. Okay, 146 weeks. You had Dexys, you got UB40, Casey and the Sunshine Band, Duran Duran, Culture Club, Pretenders, Spandau Ballet, Adam and the Ants, loads and loads and loads, 146. The first half of the 90s, there were 141 weeks when bands were number one. New Kids on the Block, Wet Wet Wet, Erasure, Take That, loads and loads. So we've got 146, 141. In the first 5 years of this decade, 3 weeks.
No.
We have had 3 number one weeks, one of which was the Radio 1 Live Lounge All-Stars, most of whom were soloists anyway. One of which was the Beatles, when they had the lovely comeback single, and one of which was Little Mix. And that's the only kind of official band who've had a single week at number one in this entire decade.
Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy?
Is it sort of a sort of hyper individualization of things nowadays? And you see it in comedy as well. We talked before about why you don't really see very many sketch shows, and stand up is such a sort of a magnetic thing, sort of the individual gladiator, as it were. Yeah, I think 100% that. I think also, there are various cultural things in that, if you come from, the London grime scene, then it's very individualized on it. So people will collaborate an awful lot, but you wouldn't collaborate necessarily in a band. So there's lots of little reasons. But essentially, if you look at all of those names and the bands who are around, and, everyone was in a band, no one is in a band anymore, apart from all these Korean bands. There's even this week's top 40, there is not a single band formed in this century in the top 40 of the singles charts or the album charts. What